In this video, we're going to talk about the basics of Blender, how to do basic navigation, customize our workspace, and save our project. When you open up Blender for the first time, it can be a bit overwhelming. But fear not, once this video is over, you're going to feel much more comfortable to continue this course and find your way within this amazing tool. When we open up Blender for the first time, we see that we have our viewport, which is this whole area where we see three objects in them. We have the camera, the cube, and the light source. On the left side, we have our tools. At the top, we have our workspaces, such as modeling, sculpting, UV editing. And underneath that, we have options to edit an object, add new objects, select and view. And a few more elements here that I'm not going to overwhelm you with right away. On the right side, we can see that we have our camera, cube, and light. So actually all of the objects in our scene. This area is called the outliner. And if you ever want to know what a specific window is, you can simply click on this drop-down button on the top left corner, and you get to see the name of that specific window. And you can change it to actually any other window if you want to. For now, we're not going to do that. I'm just going to click or wait long enough anywhere else in my scene, and that window is going to close. Underneath our outliner, we have the properties window. Here, you can adjust our tools, render, output, view layers, see scene properties, adjust the world properties. And as you can see, we also have the object properties right here. So a ton of options, and most of the magic happens right here. So we're going to spend a lot of time going through all of the choices and options that we have in the properties window. But for now, it's good to know that this is called the properties window, outliner, our viewport, our tools, and these are called our workspaces windows. Now, underneath our viewport, we have the timeline. This can be handy if you're creating animations. And for now, we're not going to do anything with it, except that you should know if you click space, your timeline is going to play, which can be annoying. So make sure to pause it and put it back to the end point or start point of your scene. Okay, now that we know that we have a viewport, outliner, and a properties window, it's time to talk about how to navigate in our viewport. So by holding the middle mouse, I can rotate in our 3D world space. And as you can see, this is a empty void with nothing but a camera, a light, and a cube in it. I can zoom out by doing wheel down on my middle mouse and wheel up to zoom in. And once again, by holding Shift and the middle mouse, I can move around in my scene, zoom in by wheel up, and middle mouse to rotate. So that's basically all you need to know. Shift and middle mouse gives you all the options that you need to move in your viewport. If you ever forget any of these, you can go here to the top right, and if I hover over these Y, X, and Z, I can hold my left mouse and simply move in the 3D viewport. Now, if you've paid attention, you're seeing that the Y is green, the Z is blue, and the X is red. These are our axes, and you can see them also in your scene on the grid. And currently we're not seeing the Z axis. But that's basically from top to bottom or bottom to up. Because unlike 2D projects, when you're working in a 3D viewport or 3D space, you don't have layers. You have, once again, a empty void where you can place and organize your objects individually or as a group by just positioning them where you want. And once you're happy, you can place a camera and render a specific view. So if I hold the zoom button here, I can zoom in just like I did by using my middle mouse. But for now, I just have to hold my left mouse to zoom in and out. The same is true for moving the view. I can hold the hand icon and move around in my scene. And I can click on the camera view to see my camera view, or basically get an idea of what I'm going to be rendering through this specific camera. I'm going to click on it again, and I'm going to explain to you why we have cameras. Unlike Photoshop or 2D projects, in 3D, we have to tell Blender, okay, I know that I'm looking through my viewport right here, this is what I'm looking at, but I want to move around freely and I don't want to constantly go back to a specific point to create a render. So to solve that, we have a camera which we can place anywhere where we want, and that view is going to be locked to what we're seeing right now. And we can move and position anything that we want and just make sure that eventually all that we need to do is render our camera view. We also have the option to switch between perspective and orthographic. So if you want to work on a project in orthographic view, you can do so by clicking on this grid icon right here. So we also have shortcuts on our numpad. If you don't have a numpad, I highly suggest that you get yourself one. With the numpad, we can look at our scene from a specific viewport. So from top, bottom, left, or right. Before clicking on any of the keys, I'm going to show it by clicking on Z, which shows the top view, X, and Y, which show the side view and the front and back view respectively. I'm going to rotate by holding the middle mouse again to get out of that specific view. I can do the same by clicking 1, 3, 7, and 0 to switch between views. And you can click on 8 for 6 and 2 to just move to the left and right or top or down if you wish to. So we have a lot of ways of navigating through our scene, which makes it really easy to find our way in our project. Now, if you ever need to select an object or zoom into that specific object, all you have to do is click on it either right here or here in your outliner. So for example, let's say I'm going to move over here, click on my cube. I'm going to move my mouse back into the viewport and click on numpad. That's the dot sign on the numpad, which brings me to the cube. If I click on light, the same happens. It zooms in and focuses on the light. And if I were to now hold my middle mouse and rotate, you see that my rotation is focused around the light. The same is true for the cube. Let me zoom out a bit and hold the middle mouse and rotate around it. Same is true for the camera. So this way you can quickly find your object in your scene if you ever feel like you're lost. Now, on top of that, you also have the option to customize your workspace. We talked about the camera a few times now, but it really is hard to work if you constantly have to switch between the camera and a free look. So how can we solve this? Well, basically all the windows that we have are not limited. If I were to go to this edge around these two windows, I can adjust my window sizes, so I can basically make anything bigger or smaller. But if I were to go to this top area, you see a plus sign up here. I can simply click on it and extend it in any direction. Now, keep in mind that when you're doing so, you're going to get a preview of how that's going to look like. So if you don't like that specific extension, move on to another corner and try it again there. So this is basically what I want. I'm going to move that right there. I'm going to add maybe a window here. So all you have to do is click and drag, and I'm going to put this on outliner. And I'm going to go to this area. And just add a new window right here. You might feel a bit frustrated when you're doing this for the first time and you might mess things up, but that's completely fine. Even for me, sometimes it's a really non-intuitive way of adding windows, but it works. You just have to be a little bit patient. Now, as I said, we can add new windows. We can split and merge windows. So now that we have two windows here, I can click on the camera, and now I get my camera view, and here I can move or add any object that I want. And if I ever want to remove this window, all I have to do is go here to the top, and it's important that you're a little bit on a specific window side. As you can see, I'm not exactly on this edge, and you just have to join the areas, and you can remove that specific window. Now, let me select my cube again, because now that we know how the interface works, it's important to know that in 3D, every object has a dimension. And before we continue, let me just quickly fix this area. I'm just going to do this. Great. So every object has a dimension. I'm going to click N on my keyboard, and this is going to bring up the properties options. Now, underneath item, which you're seeing here, and don't worry about all of these here. These are my personal plugins and tools that I use for specific projects. Just focus on items. You see that we have dimensions. Every object has a dimension in 3D. So this cube has a dimension of 2 by 2 by 2. And that means that we can adjust its dimensions by writing anything here and changing that. We also have a scale, rotation, and location. And in the next video, we're going to talk more about that. But it's important to know that once again, in the 3D world space, objects have a dimension, and that's something to keep in mind. If I click N again, I can hide the properties options that we just saw right there. Keep in mind that clicking N does not mean that we're going to hide any of these panels right here. It's just a tab that we can open and close. The same is true for the tools. By clicking T, we can open and close that specific toolbar. Okay, now that we know how to navigate in our viewport and how to zoom and orbit, it's time to talk about saving your project. You can click Ctrl S to save. You can use version numbers such as V01, V2. You can also auto-save and recover files. By going to File, we can save, save as, or save a copy. There are more options here which we're going to talk about later. But for now, feel free to play around and see what kind of things you can do and get a bit more comfortable with Blender before we move on to the next video. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.